Hello, viewers. Marianne from Revealing Light Tarot. How are you all today, this evening? It's late afternoon here in Australia. Okay, so I want to do a bit of a deep dive into the relationships between Trump and Trump's White House and Trump's campaign, into those relationships with Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Russia. I'm going to look at whether these relationships were there before he took the presidency, whether they were active during his campaign. What is the nature of these relationships? Did they discuss agendas during his campaign, should he win the presidency? Have they discussed their own self-fulfilling agendas during his presidency? And what is Trump and the Trump organization getting out of these relationships? What are they doing for them? And what are they getting out of it? If we've got time, we'll look at what's behind the pardons. I think, you know, these tarot readings can just spark intuition. They are for entertainment purposes only. They are based on my intuitive impressions, not facts. So you make your own mind up and use your own intuition about Trump's relationships with his key allies. And I won't say that they've always been the United States allies, but they certainly are under the Trump regime. You make your own mind up about them. Sometimes I refer to it as the shadow foreign policy, as we see decisions that are taken that really don't make too much sense. And of course, with Bolton's book coming out, Linda G and I read on that the other day, he talks about being a little bit mystified by why some of these decisions are made which aren't really in the national interests of the United States. And of course, if they're not in your interests, they're probably not in ours, in Australia, or other Western democracies, and seem to be based on financial interests. So let's just take a bit of a deep dive and see where we come out. I'm using my Tarot Deluxe, Classic Deluxe by Lo Scarabeo. It is not currently available, unfortunately, but they may print some more. I got mine on Amazon some time ago. So let's have a look. Okay. Were the relationships with any of these three, or all of these three, any of these three, Turkey, Russia and Saudi Arabia, in place before Trump took the presidency? Were these relationships, and I'm talking a give and a take, a tit for tat, you do this for me, although I haven't seen much evidence of what they're doing for the US, but certainly they seem to be winning under Donald Trump. Were these relationships in place before Trump became president? Now I'm going to do a Celtic cross and wait until we get to the outcome card before we get our answer, because they're going to tell a story. And the story straight away that they're telling is that the Four of Pentacles, money, insecurity, is the signifier card. So it seems like the nature of these relationships is financial. Now we've got obviously the relationship between the two. Now, it's interesting in the placement of the Celtic cross. The signifier card can be insecurity around money, but it is challenged by relationships. So, I mean, you know where I'm going with this, that there is obviously some leverage over this president. Straight away, we have the Emperor as the foundation of the reading, which is suggesting that these relationships may, for example, let's take a hypothetical scenario that they lent Trump money. They are expecting certain things while he is the president, and therefore those relationships are actually compromising him, or shall we say exposing him. We wondered why so many things have come to light. Yes, that is the nature of Trump, but it could also be Trump fulfilling agendas, but that's a separate question. We'll ask that later. Now, in the past, we have the Mueller report. This was always my card for Robert Mueller smaller, and investigation as well. So that's in the past. So I feel that the energy of these cards are taking me right to the present, and that these relationships and what is expected, what may have been discussed even during his campaign, is a source of investigation, and that's why we're getting this investigation. Now we've got the issue or the outcome is the voters. So in order for these relationships to come to fruition, these agendas to come to fruition, of course, he had to win the election. Now, how did he win the election? Okay, so we've got lots of donations. Now, this is still, I don't see a lot has changed. We know that money is still being funneled from Russia via Parnas, the oligarch Firtash, via Firtash through Parnas and Freeman, and again, campaign donations are in the focus. Are in focus. I do suspect that we're going to also see loans and debts. Now, this is obviously why his tax returns are going to be so important. So it looks like these relationships were in place before he became president, and the nature of the relationship was that he money insecurity obviously means that you don't have, you feel you don't have enough money to meet your needs. We've got the debt here, loans and debts, giving and receiving help, and we have, funnily enough, the relationship between the two as a challenge to his presidency. All right, let's keep going. Right now we've got money loss, which is interesting because Linda G came, it also came through when we were reading the other day. She felt that Trump is losing money. All right, let's keep going. All that, it may be revealed, of course, sitting right under the loans and debts, the Six of Pentacles. It may be revealed that he doesn't have, with the Four of Pentacles and the Five of Pentacles and the Six of Pentacles in this spread, he obviously is challenged financially. Now, the environment around this loss, this Five of Pentacles, we're talking about what was the relationship. Now, we've got this tug-of-war. It seems like, now I'm just going to pose another hypothetical here because there are questions upon questions upon questions coming out here. Did he stand for the presidency because he was so far in debt that this was a way of paying off his debts? Now, I think we'll ask that question. The hopes and the fears that obviously the truth will come out, that obviously there are spies in the camp, let's just put it like that, whether they're in Deutsche Bank or whether they're in the IRS or whether they're in the National Security Office or whether they're in the White House. The fear is that this will all be leaked. Now we have the Knight of Cups. This is an offer. So here I'm being taken to what did they expect in return. Now we've got our abuse of power. They expected an abuse of power, and we've got the Six of Swords moving on. So we've got 5 and 6 happening at the moment. And we've also got, as I said, 4, 5 and 6 of Pentacles. They're telling quite a story. On the bottom of the pack, we have the Empress, which is the card for abundance. It's also my card for Russia. We know that there was that relationship with Russia. I'm going to be pulled to Turkey and Michael Flynn here, and Saudi Arabia, of course, because these relationships are telling me that that they existed before the presidency. So now we're going to ask, and we've got obviously that they've paid off debt for Trump. in some way. So we've got anxiety here. I want to know, and of course, the next card I would pull would be loss. So it seems to me that the information around the nature of these relationships and this president being compromised, there's always the worry that this will be revealed. Okay, now the Five of Cups is telling me it will be revealed. So let's see. Well, we've answered our two questions. The relationship existed before the presidency. The nature of the relationship is money lending. And I want to know what are they getting in return? Let's just have a look. What did Trump promise? I'm going to give these cards a good shuffle. Are his debts being wiped off? Are his debts being wiped off in return, or reduced, debt reduction, reduced in return for fulfilling agendas from either Turkey, Russia, or Saudi Arabia? Any one of those or all of them? Spirit, is his debt being reduced or wiped off because from fulfilling the agendas of either Turkey, Russia, or Saudi Arabia? Is his debt being wiped off in return for these fulfilling favours, fulfilling agendas, steering the ship in the right direction for these countries? Is there a payoff here for Trump in fulfilling these agendas in relation to debt reduction? All right, let's see what's happening. So we've got trade and commerce. So again, this is, I'm feeling, giving these countries a slice of the pie. Now, Ukraine, again, we look at agendas, what happened in Ukraine. That agenda that the Trump regime had was a benefit to Russia. He's challenged by loss and walking away. So these two signifier cards, I would interpret, these are my intuitive impressions only, that yes, there were what did they get, or what did they want? They wanted a bigger slice of the pie, whatever influence he could have to open up certain routes for them. Now, it's not just trade routes; it's anything to do with foreign policy to push it into their favour. But it is challenged by him walking away and resigning, which I feel will be the outcome, the eventual outcome. The foundation of the reading is the Queen of Cups. Now, she has something to reveal. She always comes forward as having something to reveal. While ever she's in our spreads, we know that there's going to be a drip, 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 drip of the truth. We've got restriction, Eight of Swords, restriction. Now, we don't know, but they may have been calling in their loans. They may have been threatening to cut off the supply of money. We don't know. But we do have the Tower card here. What did they want in return? So they wanted trade and commerce, a bigger slice of the pie, in whatever way Trump could give that to them as the president of the US. The Queen of Cups, they also wanted support. That's the other aspect of the Queen, support, nurturing of their interests. But we have the Tower here. Now, this could be also, I'll read it on multiple levels, this will be what will eventually take Trump out when they can get a look at those tax returns, or that spy in the camp, if not before. But of course, this can also be election loss as well. We're getting very close to the election. The other aspect of this is preventing trouble. Okay, so going softly, turning a blind eye to whatever they're doing. When the US does that, they can keep on doing that. Now, I'm getting a big draw to the Middle East and Syria here. The other aspect of this is the Tower card, because we can see that Tower moment unfolding before our eyes for this president. The Queen of Pentacles in the immediate future here in relation to this question. She is both having everything that one needs, financial resources, but she is also my card for national security. So, as you know, Trump is locked into a battle with the judges and indeed the rule of law itself. I feel that we should watch our judges, how they're going to respond. Because I feel that in some way our courts are going to be what will eventually crumble, pull apart, disintegrate this presidency in relation to the matter that I've read on Turkey, Russia, Saudi Arabia. Lies and deceit. Lies and deceit. Opening up the shop and allowing those to come in and take whatever they want to. What did they get back? What did they want? They wanted America to turn a blind eye. The Chariot in the environment around. So the Chariot is strong. It's like, it's really, it could even be, there may have been specific requests or specific agendas in relation to US forces, because that's almost like a soldier card as well. So withdrawing troops. We know that withdrawing troops in Syria only benefited Turkey and Russia, and withdrawing troops in Afghanistan, turning a blind eye. Okay, the hopes and the fears. We've got this tug of war happening. For Trump to be in this situation, like it would be the biggest con of the millennia, wouldn't it? The century, more going back beyond a century. But this is also partisanship. So part of the biggest con of the century or the millennia would be to stoke the flames of division, so that there would be so much division. Now, remember, Russia is past master at this kind of warfare. So much division that people would support turning a blind eye no matter what, because they are so filled with divisive politics, gaslit, that they would allow him to do anything. So is Trump a master? Is he a master, this, person that's, been able to do whatever he wants? No. If you break it down, you see exactly what's happened. And we always come back to the same thing. And the thing is, if we want this to stop, we've got to step up. We've got to be smarter. We've got to actually get beyond this and see the truth. Now, unfortunately, and this leads me to the pardons. Unfortunately, in the US, they didn't get beyond this because the Republicans voted to acquit him in a sham trial. And of course, that has emboldened him, emblazoned his project, the project that he's got running throughout his presidency. Well, I'll call it a project, but it is, I think, essentially who he is. It's he's not doing anything differently to what he's done all his life. He's just done it on a grander scale. We've got the outcome of Russia here. So I feel that Russia would be his main, let's just call it benefactor. And we've got the voters. So again, I'm getting a pull. How could he pull this off? Of course, the voters. So I do feel, and we've got the 8 of Wands. So I do feel that is the election, hacking of the election in some way. What did they expect back? They expected back what you would think they would want. And unfortunately, it would appear that they've got it. Now, because these 3 cards are in the outcome, I do feel, and we've got that verified, I do feel Russia's at it again, unfortunately. But with huge voter turnout, it's going to be harder. So again, we come back to the bottom line. If you want this to change, get out and vote. Start being active. Base of the pack, we've got the Lovers card, which is, obviously the energy behind that is a Gemini. Trump is a Gemini. The Lovers card is also relationships. We've got Six of Swords, which of course came up in my previous reading. I feel these relationships will end soon. I have the Knight. Of course, the Knight comes and makes the offer. It's a very quick energy. It can almost be that con artist energy in its negative sense. But I've also got retreat and wounded in battle, but this is also ill health as well. So pulling off this grand, whatever you will call it, this grand con, I guess, is starting to take its toll on Trump's health. It's interesting because he was always shocked, wasn't he, when he won the presidency? So perhaps part of those agreements was to run for president and stoke these divisions. They may have had another plan that they would again deepen the divide if someone like Hillary Clinton got into power. He seemed a little bit shocked when he actually did win. All right, so let's ask, did they discuss their agendas? I don't want this to be too long. Did they discuss their agendas? It appears that it may have been necessary for Trump to take this action in order to fulfill his end of the bargain, because he may have been so in debt to any of these countries. It seems like Russia is the main thing here, that he that he was not forced, but that this was seen as an opportunity. Now, did he understand what he was taking on? I just want to pull. I know there's so many questions. Did he understand what he was getting into? Did he understand what he was getting into when he became the president? In that he owed a payback to either any of these countries, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Russia. Did he understand what he would need to do? He didn't expect the truth to come forward. He didn't expect the knights to go into battle. He didn't expect as much opposition. He thought he would have the strength and the endurance of the presidency to pretty much do what he wanted. But this Four of Pentacles would lead me to believe that he perhaps had no other choice. We've got new starts. It was a new start for him. Interesting when you think about what it would be like to be bankrupt many times, to have that kind of debt. All right, so I don't think he expected the amount of investigation that he got. All right, so again, remembering that the weapon to guard against this was simply to gaslight so much that the Republicans would let him do anything. All right, so let's go back to our question. Did they discuss their mutual agendas during the campaign? If he did win, what he would need to do? Did any of these countries, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, did they discuss what was needed, the outcomes that were needed, if he won the presidency? Okay. Okay, so we've got, I've got some things flying out of here. Well, first of all, I've got the Lovers card, and I've got the Magician. So actualizing things into reality. I've also got the Hanged Man, so something that was stalled, I'm feeling, is sanctions. I've got the Nine of Swords. Again, I'm feeling this again is this anxiety that he's been under, and it has affected his health. But I'm just going to put those back. And on the bottom of the pack, I had the loans and debts. Okay, let's go again with that question. Did they discuss what they wanted, the agendas during the campaign? Did they discuss these agendas prior to Trump being elected president? The agendas that they want, these countries, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Russia, any of these countries, did they discuss their agendas? Okay, so it seems like they might have discussed it in very strong terms, very strong terms. You do this in return for this. This is what we will do. Debt relief, relieving the debt burden. Income sources. Okay, so it was all about the money. So they discussed sanctions. They discussed the ways that they would bring these agendas to light. And we've also got the Four of Swords again, which is retreat, wounded in battle, perhaps how to defeat the Democrats. Okay, so at the bottom of the pack is this Eight of Pentacles. So I think the key cards here are these. Okay, so we have Trump being on the back foot in terms of who he owed money to. What did they discuss? It's all about making more money for their countries and for those within. Each of these rulers would be beholden to the wealthy, particularly Putin and his oligarchs. And money in, money out. So also campaign donations. And muddying the waters. All right, so when we break it down, it's sort of pretty obvious, isn't it? And that's what I'm attempting to do with this reading, to break it down and get some validation of what we already know. Have they discussed the agendas that are in their own financial interests and not necessarily national interests? Have they discussed those agendas while Trump has been the president? And of course they have. Have they discussed these self agendas, self-fulfilling agendas, which are not necessarily in the US interests, while Trump has been the president? At every opportunity, probably. The Lovers card. Okay, and we've got the Hanged Man. So I would say it's been difficult, more difficult than they thought. We've got the Ace of Cups, and this is the reaction to what has gone on. What did they expect? What did they expect? They're actually quite insecure about what is playing out in America at the moment. We've got the offer, and we've got the travel, relocation, movement, and we've got the partnerships coming up here. But I feel that they have been, certainly Russia has been disappointed. Here is the Four of Cups. They have been disappointed in this president. He hasn't been able to deliver what he was supposed to deliver. All right, so what's on the bottom of the pack, glaring up at me, is the Sword of Truth. Why hasn't he been able to? Because of this Sword of Truth. Now, to finish this reading, I think I'll leave the pardons for another day, unless I can throw on them fairly quickly. I just want to ask, is the evidence in his tax returns? Is the evidence in his tax returns? Is the evidence in his tax returns? Is the evidence of all this in his tax returns? Is the evidence of what we've discussed in this reading today in his tax returns? Is the evidence in his tax returns? Is the evidence in his tax returns? So what I'm seeing is almost like a fortress now. So within that fortress is his tax returns. However, it's not. It's actually made of sticks that could actually crumble. It's not much of a fortress. Is the evidence in his tax returns? Is the evidence in his tax returns? Again, so we've got the Four of Swords. Again, keeps coming up. It's ill health, ill health, ill health. Seems to be the dominating energy that's making itself known when these cards keep keep coming up. But this is also retreat as well. So holding back that, holding them back. But I feel that the Queen of Pentacles in this case, we go to New York, Attorney General Letitia James. Okay, so holding those tax returns back. I feel also women judges, I feel, are going to play a role in this. Now, whether that's releasing some of the Mueller transcripts or not, I'm getting a real pull to the judges. The abuse of power. I asked the direct question in the foundation of the reading, was the evidence in the tax returns? The abuse of power is evidence in the tax returns. We've got the Emperor here in the past. Okay, so I would also suggest there is significant evidence of whatever's in his tax returns will also be evident during his stint as president. So I'm not saying that there could be monetary increases, but there could be an alleviation of debt, for example. There's an abuse of power in his tax returns. Money in, money out, money laundering. There will be evidence of that in his tax returns. The Seven of Pentacles, not achieving your financial goals, having to go back to the drawing board. There'll be evidence of that in his tax returns. He's walking a tightrope. There is manipulation with this Two of Pentacles. There will be evidence of that in his tax returns. And what is the environment around all of this? You can take this, as Linda G says, to the bank because it's all in his tax returns. He fears the progress that the Supreme Court will say, yes, release them. That's what he fears. And we've got lies and deceit, the Seven of Swords. The evidence of lying is in his tax returns. We've got the Fool card, which is new starts, and we've got the King of Cups. So once these tax returns are known, we will have our new starts. Now, what's at the base of the pack? We've got karma. We've got the Wheel of Fortune. Things start turning in the right direction. Oh, sorry, I've just dropped my crystal. Things starting to move forward, but also that this is a karmic situation that we're facing. The Seven of Cups came up in what was part of their strategy prior to the election. So to create the division, but also the smoke screens, the illusion and the delusions, that's also at the base of the pack. And we have the Two of Swords, decisions needing to be made. And we've got the courts, the lawyers, the investigators. So I'm feeling new starts, and the World card is showing me that it is likely that the courts will vote in some way to release those tax returns. So all that evidence is there. One last card. We have the Six of Cups, which is the past. The evidence of the past is in those tax returns. Now, I couldn't have drawn a more negative set of cards for those tax returns. What was in them? What was the evidence? Most of the cards, from the Seven of Swords through to the Five of Swords, through to the Tower, through to manipulation, walking a tightrope financially. I couldn't, if I had have handpicked these cards out of a shuffle, out of a pack, I couldn't have picked them better. So I'm going to leave that there. I will come back and do the pardons, because where we are at now is you've seen what really from 2016, some of the narrative playing out here. But where we're at now is very, very worrying, and that is an attack on the rule of law. And that's what I feel these pardons are about. It is about him showing that he is above the law. Now, Nancy Pelosi's statement, the president isn't above the law, would appear to be not true, because he was acquitted when he broke the law, and now he's pardoning. And we know he's interfering in court cases as well. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you all for your wonderful comments on the Linda G. Oh gosh, I think there was like over 1,000 comments. I read them all. And from Linda and myself, thank you so much for the generosity that you gave us in that lovely positive feedback on our reading together. As I said, one thing that struck me when I was reading with Linda, I hope she doesn't mind me saying it, but Linda is a very gifted medium. I was really quite in awe of her mediumship. And it really was a great thrill for me to read with her. So thank you again for all those positive comments. I will be back again if I can to dig a little bit deeper on these pardons, because there may well be a method. Something with Trump, there's always the obvious layer, and then you dig down a bit and you see another layer and another layer and another layer. One of my previous bosses, whom was pretty clever in every way, said you don't just do something for one reason. A good decision is when you get 10 payoffs, and not just one, but 10. So that's business, isn't it? So look, I'm going to leave you with what I've got there. Not so much a predictive reading today, rather, well, I guess it is. Will we know the truth? Of course we will. Of course we will know the truth. This will all come out. And the tax returns hold a lot of that evidence, but this is going to come out over many years, long after Trump has gone. So I'll leave that there. Thank you again for tuning in, and I'll be back again with another reading soon. Thank you.